In Germany, it is quite common that if someone asks you to please spell your name, that you will say something like A wie Anton, K wie Kaufmann, or even just Kaufmann, Theodor, Anton, and so on. This is called the phonetic alphabet, and there is also an English alphabet and also an international alphabet, and this is what we're going to look at today. We are going to focus on the international alphabet because it is widely understood. But first of all, the good news. In English-speaking countries, it is not as common to use the international phonetic alphabet. What is much more often done is to use any word that comes to mind. So, for example, instead of saying A for alpha, which is the official international phonetic alphabet, you say things like A for apple, B for bear, and so on. I still suggest you learn the international phonetic alphabet by heart. Usually when you are on the phone or you are in a work situation where you suddenly have to spell something using a phonetic alphabet, you might be quite nervous. So in the moment when you have to think up a word, all of a sudden you might go A for, oh, I don't know, I can't think of any words with A in English all of a sudden. But if you know a phonetic alphabet by heart, it will be almost automatic. So the goal of this session is that by the end of it, you know the international phonetic alphabet by heart and can use it. Which means I will introduce this alphabet to you, we will practice that, and of course there will be some exercises. But first of all, let's have a look at an overview of the international phonetic alphabet. In your material, you can find this overview on page 67 in the vocabulary section, and this little ear on the right hand side shows you that if you click on it, you can even have this read out to you. So let's go through the letters. There is A for alpha, and the first thing I would like you to note that it is 4. You say A for or A as in alpha. As in is an alternative to 4. We're going to stick with 4 in this case. It's A for alpha, B for Bravo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, E for Echo, F for Foxtrot, G for Golf, H for Hotel, I for Indigo, J for Juliet, K for Kilo, L for Lima, M for Mike, N for November, O for Oscar, P for Papa, Q for Quebec, R for Romeo, S for Sierra, T for Tango, U for Uniform, V for Victor, W for Whiskey, X for X-ray, Y for Yankee, and Z, British English or American English, Z for Zulu. Please note that V for Victor, this V is pronounced like the German V sound, whereas W as in whiskey or for whiskey is this W sound. Please don't confuse these two, which is something that German speakers love doing. So it's V for Victor and W for whiskey. Also in your material on pages 35 and 36, you can see the phonetic alphabet, which looks like that. You've got big letters in boxes and then boxes in which you can see how this letter is pronounced. So if you print it out, it looks like this. You've got one sheet with the letters and one sheet with the little boxes. And what you can do is take those two sheets of paper and glue them together like this. Then you've got these little snippets, and we will be dealing with this in more detail a little later. But what you can see then is that on the back you can see how the letter is pronounced, because sometimes that's difficult, and also it reminds you to always say A for, and then also it gives you the word that you should use for the international phonetic alphabet. A for alpha, for example. So what you can see here is the phonetic, so how to say the word is not the official one. I just think it's more important that it's clear. I don't want to teach you phonetics. I want to teach you English. So this is why I have simplified this here. But let's get into practicing this right away. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you a slide with just some letters. And first of all, I will tell you how to say these letters using the International Phonetic Alphabet. Then I'll just highlight the letter, and it's your turn to then say how to pronounce the letter, A for example, and then use the word used in the International Phonetic Alphabet. So let's get to. Let's start out with the vowels. We've got A for alpha, E for echo, I for indigo, O for Oscar, and U for uniform. Let's do this again. A for alpha, E for echo, I for indigo, O for Oscar, and U for uniform. So what I'm going to do now is to always highlight one of these letters, and it's your turn then to say out loud A for Alpha, E for Echo, I for Indigo, O for Oscar, U for uniform, depending on which letter I highlight. And once you had enough time to say it, I say it out loud too, so that you right away know if you got it right. Here we go. A for Alpha. O for Oscar. U for uniform. O for Oscar. U for uniform. A for Alpha. E for Echo. I for Indigo. E for Echo. I for Indigo. U for uniform. A for Alpha. I for Indigo. E for Echo. I for Indigo. All right, that was not too hard, was it? We are now moving on to more letters, and this time I picked out letters that are made clear with names and places. For example, C for Charlie or H for hotel. This, by the way, is also a tip how you can learn new words and remember them more easily. If you categorize them, as I did just now, vowels, now names and places, then your brain can categorize them, put order to them, and more easily recall them, remember these words. So let's move on to the letters that are made clear with names and places. Let's start out with the first row. C for Charlie, D for Delta, G for Golf, H for Hotel, J for Juliet. Now it's your turn. C for Charlie, D for Delta, G for Golf, H for Hotel, J for Juliet. Second row. L for Lima, M for Mike, O for Oscar, P for Papa, Q for Quebec. Now it's your turn. L for Lima, M for Mike, O for Oscar, P for Papa, Q for Quebec. Third row. R for Romeo, S for Sierra, V for Victor, Y for Yankee, Z or Z for Zulu. Now it's your turn. R for Romeo, S for Sierra, V for Victor, Y for Yankee, Z or Z for Zulu. All right, now let's always start at the top and go all the way down to the bottom. C for Charlie, L for Lima, R for Romeo, D for Delta, M for Mike, S for Sierra, G for Golf, O for Oscar, V for Victor, H for Hotel, P for Papa, Y for Yankee, J for Juliet, Q for Quebec, Z or Z for Zulu. What you can also do if you want to practice some more on your own is now have a look at the slide and look at the letters and say, wow, okay, this was for a name, or this was a name, and that was a name, or like which ones are the places. I hope this has already helped you to categorize this in your mind a bit. And now let's have a look at the last category, the letters that we haven't looked at yet, and they're quite random. So it's not names or places or vowels, it's the description of letters that don't fit one category. So let's have a look. We've got B for Bravo, E for Echo, F for Foxtrot, I for Indigo, K for Kilo, N for November, T for Tango, U for Uniform, W for Whiskey, and X for X-ray. E for Echo, I for Indigo, N for November, U for Uniform, B for Bravo, W for Whiskey, K for Kilo, F for Foxtrot, T for Tango, and X for X-ray. So you can see that I smuggled in the vowels again, but E for Echo, Echo is not really any of the other categories, is it? And of course you could also say, oh, there are two dances, which are F for Foxtrot and T for Tango, but altogether these letters or their explanation or description is a bit random. So let's now move on to a mixed exercise and see how many you get right and how many you already remember. Again, I will show you the slide, highlight certain letters, but now it's your turn right away to see how many you already remember, and I will tell you the solution right after you said out loud what you think the solution is. M for Mike, H for Hotel, Q for Quebec, R for Romeo, Y for Yankee, C for Charlie, L for Lima, D for Delta, J for Juliet, Z or Z for Zulu, S for Sierra, P for Papa, G for Golf, O for Oscar, D for Delta, R for Romeo, W for Whiskey, V for Victor, P for Papa, K for Kilo, Z or Z for Zulu, T for Tango, H for Hotel, C for Charlie, E for Echo, Y for Yankee, J for Juliet, A for Alpha, L for Lima, B for Bravo, I for Indigo, O for Oscar, Q for Quebec, N for November, M for Mike, S for Sierra, U for uniform, G for golf, X for X-ray, E for echo, I for indigo, A for alpha, P for papa, O for Oscar, J for Juliet, R for Romeo, F for Foxtrot, T for Tango, L for Lima, D for Delta, Q for Quebec, X for X-ray, Y for Yankee, W for Whiskey, V for Victor, Z or Z for Zulu, H for Hotel, K for Kilo, G for Golf, J for Juliet, U for Uniform, B for Bravo, M for Mike, I for Indigo. I hope this exercise has helped you to remember the phonetic alphabet. If you want to keep practicing this just for fun, you can spell your own name or the name of your street or of your family members with the International Phonetic Alphabet.